Praanesh, the CEO of TeraReach, which is an influencer marketing firm. We had been in operations for quite a bit of time, and we work with key brands across e-com industry, across travel, across like quite a lot of other categories. So today, I've been asked by Social Samosa to actually talk about influencer marketing. The current scenario of influencer marketing and the trends which are happening in influencer marketing, and how do we foresee as the new changes which are happening in influencer marketing. I'll start with what was my journey with respect to influencer marketing, like how the scenario is right now, and as and when you have any questions, please feel free to shoot your questions. I will answer them live. Right. So what's influence marketing? To put it extremely simple, the most organic form of marketing right now is like word of mouth, right? You would definitely know that while your brand reach and like brand recall is pretty important, what actually brings brands pretty closer to you is when one of your friends recommend that. But when you look at the social media space, as brand marketers, it's extremely difficult to reach out to on a one-to-one level, and what brands do is reach out to the key influencers in a particular space and use them to drive the message. To put it extremely simple, that's influencer marketing, right? And what has been the scenario of influencer marketing? To coming to the scenario of influencer marketing right now is in the very nascent stages, right? With respect to India, we are still catching up with the trend, with the global trend, and how we are progressing forward here onwards will do the trick. So so far, the last year had observed a lot of changes from 2015 to 16 to 17 has seen quite a lot of changes on how brands approach influence marketing. Initially, amplification was was the ideal goal of influence marketing. Now the goal has switched from being just an amplifier to actually creating content which is more relevant to the audience, and also to help audience either take informed decisions or maybe just to get brand recall or the same. So that's how the space has been evolving, and to be pretty frank, the nation is lot to catch up with respect to influencer marketing, and the key drivers right now in terms of brands, the pioneers of influencer marketing are majorly the e-com players. Considering the fact that e-com has to have the most highest brand recall and brand awareness, and of course the fast the other catch up, the category which is catching up pretty much along the space is the travel category. When I say travel, you can consider anything online travel agent to airlines to actually anything in terms of travel goodies or anything like that. So these people have been pretty evolved in terms of influence marketing. Now let's actually discuss how the world is proceeding in terms of influence marketing, and how the rest of the players are catching up, right? So when the term influencer marketing was framed, the key metrics which people were running after was actually reach. From reach, now people have actually moved forward. At least in the Western countries, people have moved forward towards finding brand attribution metrics, trying to understand how close I am towards a particular influencer, and trying to build relations towards an influencer, or maybe even non-incentivized influencers to actually spread the brand message. So that's how the rest of the world is progressing. And while they are doing all of that, the major difference which is bringing forward in terms of influencer marketing, what Globe's actually doing is following data to understand whether the influencer marketing making any sense or not. So when you say that following data, that there are two aspects to following data. One is trying and predicting whether influence marketing will make any sense for me. Another is actually analyzing whether it has actually made sense to me. So it's prediction and also analysis. So these are the way how data is coming into picture. Now prediction, when you say prediction, it's pretty it's a pretty vague term. It's extremely difficult to find out whether an influencer is going to make sense to me or not. So but like how the like larger brands right now are moving, are actually trying to understand what is like the outcome after an influencer potentially speaks about me. What am I getting out of it? I mean, like these are the questions are being asked by brands outside India, and then like they are actually trying to find what's a brand attribution which is happening. So from that space, we are like fast moving to a space where like beyond influencer marketing, how do I actually form subgroups? How do I build brand advocates? How do I build influencers who are already my buyers, and how do I actually make them reach out to my masses, and hence like gain more influences from there onwards. So these are the like questions which are like being addressed by the current trend. I think like rather than just like paying bloggers and getting stuff done, I mean like brands are going to explore more innovative when you engage with bloggers, or maybe casual influencers, or maybe even a person who is like pretty famous on Instagram, who's walking into a store, take a store like a standalone, like from a standalone restaurant to maybe even a CCD chain, like where like the avenues of content creation should be like is more possible, right? So this space, I mean like moving forward, like how I foresee it is like from a paid influencer marketing campaign, people will start understanding where do I find my metrics, and like how do I find the most relevant people. So I mean like in terms of like when brands right now are working with like people, majorly the question which is asked like okay, what is the followers of this particular person, like what is the number of like fans this particular Facebook fan page has got. So from that question, people will start moving towards asking questions like out of these people who engaged with me, these influencers who engaged with me, who are the followers of these influencers, who the brand has like connected with or attributed to, and how has it affected my overall earned media value, and how is the brand's health doing. So these are questions which ideally influencer marketers will be actually asking, right? So in terms of like the expertise of the brand marketers right now, I mean like these visible metrics from our followers to actually trying to understand like what is my earned media value for a brand. So that's something like which is going to be like taking a little more time to actually understand for brand marketers, because like whenever a new metrics is formed in like so whenever a new methodology of marketing is formed, typically brands and brand marketers are actually tap it out before they actually understand what is the ROI of it. So let's say if like when brand marketers understood Facebook as an avenue to do social media marketing, the first problems which they faced is, okay, let me get my word out. That was the time when like around 2011 2012 the problem was creating content was a problem. Around 2013 now, brand marketers, when Facebook launched Facebook page insights, brand marketers started thinking, okay, how do I improve my insights? So from creating content to creating valuable content became the question. Similarly, this influencer marketing is a very big term, right? I mean like a very new term, right? So when people are asking questions like, okay, this is the followers of the influencer, this is the following of the influencer, should I choose this influencer? They will start evolving into asking better questions like, does this influencer make sense to me as a brand? As a brand marketer, does influencer make sense to my category? Or like, does the alignment of the followers of this influencer is the ideal EG which I'm looking at? These are the questions like which brand marketers will be asking here onwards. So that's exactly what I believe, like where in terms of like influencer marketing is heading. So I think like that answers your question. And so in terms of the mistakes what brand marketers make, right? The major mistake which brand marketers make, I mean, like to be super honest, I have worked with quite a lot of brands, is try and control the creativity of an influencer. Now here's the fun fact. I mean, like which is like the true fact. Content brought forward influencers, but unfortunately, brand marketers forget that. Brand marketers right now are like trying to build influencers first and then try to see good content. So what is my 2 cents to a banter is, when you're working with a creative influencer, when you're working with an influencer, give the creative liberty to the influencer to experiment with this content. I mean, to be super honest, as content creator, an influencer knows what his own audience likes. Maybe it can be quirky tonality, maybe casual tonality, or the lingo or anything like that. This only a content creator understands what his audience wants. Whereas what happens when brand marketers work with influencers is so brand marketers actually try to feed the tonality of the brand into the influencer, and because of which it looks very fake and it's non-sealed. Ideal goal here is actually to make influencers act on their own. I mean, give the creative liberty back to the influencers, so that the content makes sense to their audience, and for better brand virality, that will make sense. So this is one of the major mistakes which I had seen brand marketers doing it. Right. And best campaigns, talk about some of the best campaigns. I mean, I wouldn't want to pick on any campaign. I mean, because I might be biased. I mean, rather, I mean, I can take. I mean, I can use scenarios where of the campaigns were done by influence marketing. Some of the best of the campaigns were done by the same Ariel campaign globally, where they wanted to bring out the effectiveness of the washing powder. So ideally what they would do is let's rope in more influencers, let's give the packets, and let's have to post a couple of Instagram posts. That's how a typical brand marketer in India would have thought. Instead, Ariel actually sent the packets along with this was a very nice case study, along with designer clothing to fashion blogs. But here's the fun fact. I mean, they build up the clothes and then sent it along with the packet of Ariel. Now fashion bloggers have to actually wash it along using Ariel, and then they have to show how Ariel had helped them recover a growth back. So the power of storytelling there. I mean, actually giving fashion bloggers avenue to actually test out the product, but not in a very direct way, but in a way as to engage with them. That that is something which I really liked about campaign. And there have been a few instances where influencers were sent on trials by several brands, where they have to unlock stuff or anything like that, which is majorly followed by Indian these days. That's a trend, I guess. I mean, one of the key campaigns which I really liked in globally was that. Other than that, I mean, Amazon is actually exploring something where they want to put performance into influencer marketing, moving from more into a branding space. From a branding space, they want to move into a performance space where they want to explore if influencer marketers can actually sell. So that's something which I'm actually looking forward to, how well that goes for Amazon. That's probably a case study which can set for any e-com brand, that is. So I mean, I see a couple of questions here. I mean, one of the questions, somebody has asked me is is there a framework for influencers? To be honest, I mean, this is again the mistake which people go after. There's no framework, right? I mean, creativity doesn't have a framework. The idea is to leverage influencers. The idea is not to utilize them as tools, right? When you are, I mean, even when I'm working with brand marketers and social media marketers, often the thought often which I say is any idea can be made into an influencing campaign. Just focus on creativity. I mean, then see if influencers are fit in your campaign. If they're not fit in a campaign, then chuck it out. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to actually rope in influencers. Right. And I saw a question where somebody asked me, what are the few tips for upcoming bloggers and influencers? The answer, I mean, is pretty simple. I mean, take complete control of your content. Do not give the liberty of content to the brand marketer when you're working with the brand. And please remember, content comes first, influence comes second. I mean, don't do it the other way. Like, don't try to become an influencer and try to post content. It doesn't work that way. Like, be as genuine as possible. So that's my word in terms of influencers. I mean, I might have two sets of influencers. And I have another question. What should influencers do when brands don't pay? I mean, that's something which you have to deal with the brands. I mean, like, there is no answer to that. I mean, there are, like, brands are right now realizing the importance of actually regulating the monetary output which is given to the influencers. I wouldn't like to comment on that. Actually, that differs from brand to brand. So I see another question. What's the best way to get sign up on apps? Right. To be so frank, I mean, like, influencer marketing in India is at least not in a stage where you can look at like performance, like, an app download per se, unless until your app is extremely viral, right? So I have worked with a few startups where, like, I have told them, like, do not pay the influencer, just get the app to the right guy who's influencer who would like to talk about your app rather than just paying and getting it done. Right. So I mean, like, if you actually want to do a app promotion campaign, I mean, ideally as a digital strategist, I would suggest you to build a great app. And let's say if you have a great app, I mean, like, focus on getting a few installs first, because your key installs are the ones, like, who's gonna drive your word of mouth. Post after, like, let's say if you have somewhere around 5,000 to 6,000 downloads or something like that, right? Now you approach like relevant influencer from your space, like, be it like, a fashion influencers or like, technology influencers, whichever is the domain of your app, and like, get talking about it. That's pretty much what influencer marketing can do for you. I mean, it's too early to look at like numbers like cost per download when working on influencer marketing campaign. So that is more function of paid media as compared to influence marketing. So that's about it. I think I'm done with all my questions. Thanks for watching. Thanks for your time. I'm sorry about the technical issue which happened earlier, and I hope if feel free to ask any more questions, I can take them like separately on comments. Thanks a lot.